Hello and welcome back to the Sack Race Racks, where today we'll be reacting to the news that Valerien Ismael has left Barnsley to go to West Brom. Please make sure you guys are subscribing, get in the comments, make sure you tell us who you think the next Barnsley manager is going to be. We've still got loads of odds on site. The Premier League club still can't appoint a manager, so there's plenty of markets up. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Carlo from Barnsley podcast, The Reds Report. Hello, Carlo. How's it going?
I'm all right. How are you doing, mate? I'm always happy to do interviews. I'm not sure if I'm happy to do it on this podcast because it obviously means that the French-Iranian wizard has left us. But yeah, nice to be able to join you, mate.
Well, tell us about him. Like, he won our EFL Manager of the Season last season. Obviously, you guys the season before finished 21st. A remarkable survival on the last day against Brentford. Up into 5th, I think he won the hearts of a lot of Football League fans. Tell us a bit about the manager, what he'd done last season, and how you fans perceive him.
It was remarkable, really, because yes, we have had some signings, especially in the January window when you look at like Daryl DK, Carlton Morris. But Valerien Ismael's strongest attribute was getting the best out of the players he had available, and whilst the style at times, some people were saying, oh, you know, it's hoofball or whatever. As a Barnsley fan, to go from survival in the last 3 minutes, the pre-season before, to losing 2-1 on aggregate to Swansea in the semi-final of the playoffs, that's just immense. So at times you might look at the style and think, it's not about that, is it? It's about how your club is doing, and we got to the playoffs. So he gets the best out of every single player. Mads Andersen at centre-back struggled the season before, especially when there were fans. You know, young Danish lad comes over, trouble settling in, people on his back whistling. And he sort of like took him under his shoulder almost, under his arm. You know, he was a centre-back, obviously, in his playing days. And they're like different players. It's like literally taking your Ford Escort to the garage and coming out with your Mustang, if you know what I mean. He gets the best. And one thing that stood out for Barnsley fans was the incredible fitness, because we like to play that high line, that high press. That's hard to do for 90 minutes. But most of the season, we were able to do so. So he loves playing with young players. He loves attacking football. So what he liked to do, and the way Barnsley want to play, this DNA that the club sort of said, we need to stick to, it just fitted like a glove. He's then become a little bit of a victim of the Barnsley success. When you do well in the Championship, people will start looking. We've had it with players, Mawson left, Horahan, and now it's the manager. And lots of Barnsley fans really disappointed. You have to expect it. If you're getting an unknown but very ambitious coaching, he's going to remain ambitious if he does well with your club. So if somebody... West Brom are closer to going to the Premier League than Barnsley are at this moment in time, and really, when you look at budgets, players, and everything else. So he's been at Barnsley. He's shown what he can do. You know, we were sort of so close yet so far away. You have to wish him luck, because we know that the recruitment style of Barnsley as a football club, when you look at his predecessors, Daniel Stendel, Gerhard Struber, they'll hopefully look along the same veins, and they'll pick somebody out that we've probably never heard of. Wikipedia the servers will be smoking at the back with everybody looking up names. But that's the way Barnsley do business. I wish him luck, you know, and I've never seen him. I missed out on the ballot, so I don't even know if he's real, you know, because I've never even seen him at Oakwell. But now, you know, I mean, I wish him luck. He'll have a job on at West Brom, but he'll be respected. It's a big club, you know, come down from the Premier League. They've got the parachute payments, and I hope he succeeds, because look at what he's done for us. So, no, I wish him the best.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, could you give us a bit more of insight about the model? I don't know a bit more about your owners when they came in. I loved Gerd Stuber, his philosophy. But when did they come in? What style of play do they want to play in? As fans, you must be excited, right?
Yeah, when they also previously the club was owned by the Crine family. Patrick Crine, local businessman, made it big. He then got cancer, and whilst his son's still sort of part of the club and has a stake, it was sold to this consortium. So Billy Bean is, I don't know how many percent he's got, but he's got a stake. Billy Bean, obviously Moneyball, the film is based on Billy Bean, and that's all around stats. And that's the way Barnsley Football Club decided to go. Rather than looking at 28, 29, 31-year-olds that have had decent seasons in this division. They're looking at stats, and that brings up young players that people often haven't heard of, or in lower divisions, that according to the stats can make it in our team and make it in this division. And they set out a plan that we want to play attacking football. We want to play that sort of that gegenpress, that high line, that high intensity. And they look for managers that will fit that style. Stendel was plucked from Germany when he coached the youth team. You know, he kept us up. He took us from League One on the first time of asking back into the Championship. He was then put on garden leave, and all sorts of rumours spread around. But
was it with Barnsley? He was in the pub drinking with the fans and stuff. He had a real rapport.
Yes, yeah. The football club, I think, has an apartment which is in the middle of the town centre. It's sort of like a high rise, and we got promoted. I think it was an evening that Sunderland either drew or lost. So we got promoted without kicking a ball. And he literally, as somebody got a video, he ran out of his apartment, straight into the pub, was celebrating. And even when he left the club, the fans were in the pub, and he went into the pub and shook everybody's hand. So there was that. He was made to feel welcome. He did fantastic. Listen, he took us from League One, first time of asking, back up. He then left. In fact, the same names that are banting about now were then banting about, saying they'll be the new Barnsley manager. And they came up with Gerhard Struber, who nobody had ever heard of. But the style of football was the same. Listen, Struber kept us up, or the team kept us up. It was in the last 3 minutes or whatever it was. And one, not negative, but one thing that I think a lot of fans said, that he seemed to play with a nucleus of players, or some players that he knew from previous clubs. And at times they weren't, maybe performing to the best, but they were always being picked. It don't matter though, does it? Because we stayed up. So he then obviously impressed his previous owners at Red Bull, and he was sold for quite a bit of money and went off to Red Bull New York. And again, the club was looking. I think we got 3 points from the first 7 matches. So Valerien Ismael was appointed. Valerien Ismael previously at Lask. Now, Lask had done okay, and whilst people might have not heard much about Lask, they got to, was it the last 16 in the Europa League? They lost out to Manchester United. And the only reason he was available, because during lockdown, he got his squad together, I think it was 2 days early. So full training should have started on, I don't know, let's say a Friday, and he got his team together on a Wednesday. And that was seen as a breach of COVID conditions, and he was sacked. So that made him available for the Barnsley job. He left his wife, he left his daughter, and came over to England or to Barnsley on his own. And it just took time. He identified 3 matches that will sort of turn the season around. And I think most people will have seen, the FA Cup match that we had against Chelsea, a full strength Chelsea side. We lost, you could say narrowly, 1-0. But Barnsley were just absolutely on fire. And that was the type of football that he wanted to play. And I think for the players as well, that was like, well, if we can do this against Chelsea, we should be able to do it on a Tuesday night against Preston kind of thing. And that's when we went on that run where we just got points, we scraped wins, we didn't lose for, was it 12 matches? But then eyes from all over then start going on Barnsley, because when a team like Barnsley go to the playoffs, people start looking at your players. Most of them under contract, so that's really good, except for that Alex Mowat. But they start looking at Valerien Ismael, and he took a risk. Barnsley have got a wage structure in place that's for players, but also for things like head coach. And I'm pretty sure when he decided to come over, part of that discussion will be, imagine if you do really well. We're only a step below the Premier League, which is the best league in the world. So, he was ambitious. He was very open, very honest, very good. When I say very good with the fans, obviously because of lockdown, we've not been able to go. I think a couple of things that really, really stood out. A local brass band, you can't get much Yorkshire than that, can you? Was doing a GoFundMe page. And within, I think it was 3 weeks of him being here, he donated 100 or 150 quid. Well, that's how you get fans on side, isn't it? That's how you get your fans rooting for you. He did the other one, Lee Morris, for the fund that for Lee Morris, he sort of donated. And he seemed to understand what Barnsley is about. whilst there is a lot of renovation going on in the town centre, the football club is all we've really got. When they say it's grim up north, like it is today, it's raining. Cricket training's just been called off, but it's the football club is what it's about for this town. They're hardworking, they're honest people, and they love nothing more than to go to Oakwell on a Saturday, and all they want to see is their team give 100%. And if we get beat by a better team, it's no problem. You just need to give 100%. And as a coach, he kicked every ball, he headed every ball, he clapped every goal, he encouraged every player that made a mistake, and that's when Barnsley fans just took him to heart. And I think that's why people have such a maybe a negative reaction, because you know it's like your favourite uncle passing away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean he's been brilliant. He was hotly tipped for the Palace job as well. But I'm going to go through the market now, like we discussed a bit earlier. It's going to be impossible picking out names, and it could be no one that we've ever heard of. But I just wanted to run through a couple of names. So there's been a new favourite called Markus Schlupp. He's the current favourite. Austrian, used to play for Red Bull Salzburg and Red Bulls. The current manager of Austrian Bundesliga side, Hartberg. And you can still get him at 6-1 with Bet Victor, but he's 7-2 with William Hill. Next in the betting, Chris Wilder and Alex Neil. Obviously, Chris Wilder from Sheffield United. And Alex Neil left Preston earlier in the season, and that's 7-1 and 12-1 respectively. Adam Murray is next in the betting. He's had 2 caretaker stints. What do you make of him? What do the fans make of him? I think we know he's not going to get the job, but just what's he done in his caretaker stints?
In his caretaker stint, he did all right. I think there were a lot of draws, but he kept things stable. And he knows the squad. You know, he was there from obviously between, I think, Stendhal and Struber. No, again, I think prior to Stendhal as well. So he knows the squad. He is a first team coach. He knows the players. He knows the strengths. He knows the weaknesses. So whilst he probably won't get the job, because we know the owners, the recruitment team will be looking at a head coach, you know, probably in, I'd say, France, Austria, Germany, maybe Switzerland, but even South America has been bandied about. I think you need to keep Adam Murray there, because we know Valerian's gone. I don't know if the rest of his backroom staff have gone with him, but you need to keep that constant. Somebody to inform him that, you know, this is his best position. This is, and I think he is so passionate about the club, and getting, you know, losing him would be a huge loss in my eyes. Whilst he won't get the job, having him as part of your backroom staff is almost a must for me. And on a side note, you know, rumours that the CEO is leaving as well. You know, the CEO for a week or so now, even the local press are saying it looks like he's going to Notts Forest. Okay. And whilst a lot of people say, well, yeah, it's the CEO, we'll get another one. Yes, we probably will. The worry is, of course, that whilst you're looking for a head coach and then you might need a CEO, it's like opening the gates and saying, we've got Callum Britton here, Callum Styles, you know, Woodrow. Morris is under long contract, so we're not so worried about him. But there's been quite a few players that have stood out this season. So they need to get things in order, because finding a replacement for Valerian is going to be hard, because there's expectation now, isn't there? I'm not saying aim number one is stay in this division, but I think a lot of Barnsley fans will say, well, we deserve at least to be mid-table or higher. Look at what we did last season with these players. So expectation will be there. So, you know, pre-season, a couple of weeks away, you want somebody in place to start getting to know the players and maybe bring players in if that's what's needed.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to run through a couple of other names. Well, I'll do my best to. Christian Flufman, he's a Dortmund youth coach. He was one of Daniel Farke's coaches at Norwich. He was sacked harshly by a German third division team recently. He's 12-1. Hannes Wolf, he's been previously linked with the job. Again, another Dortmund youth. He's been manager at Hamburg, Stuttgart, Genk. He was at Leverkusen. I think now he's at the Germany under 18s. He's 15-1. And another interesting name who Footy Insider said was on the shortlist, Bo Svensson, who's the current Mainz manager at 20-1. I mean, I don't want to ask for a name, but one thing I wanted to ask is, when you look at these names like current Mainz manager, where do you think the ownership and have taken you now? Because for me, looking on the outside, I kind of feel like Barnsley are a bit back on the map. Like, do you think they've taken you where you can lure these big names?
100%. I think their plan was always a long-term plan. It stumbled a little bit at the first hurdle when obviously we got relegated under Jose Moraes, but we've forgotten about that now. And I think the owners, within budget, because that's really important, they'll not try and buy success, because then you can end up like all these other clubs around us. So they want to stay honest, they want to stay true, but the success and the clever recruitment of Stendhal, of Struber, of Ismael, I think opens eyes, and some of these foreign coaches will look and think, well, you know, it worked for them, it works for them. The recruitment of players has been really good. We've not really had any players that we, you know, have strayed out alone, have we never heard of again. So I think it's an attractive proposition, because as a club, we've got a style of football that they'll want that manager to play. So that needs to match first off. And I think, yeah, you know, you're selling a club that was in the playoffs. You know, we were potentially 90 minutes away from, well, maybe slightly more, but 90 minutes away from playing in the Premier League. So the foundations are there to become a good championship club. And I think that's what we need to sort of look at, isn't it? We've gone from the yo-yo club. We now need that period of stability, staying in this division and being seen as a true championship club. And with the right manager, who knows how far that can take us. But of the names you mentioned, if I was a betting man, I would look at those foreign names, especially those based in Germany, Austria. And obviously, our owners have connections. They own a club in Norway. They own 2 clubs in Belgium, I believe. So, yeah, you never know. It'll be somebody left field we've never heard of. But the hope is that it will be done quick.
Okay. Really fascinating insight. I really appreciate Carlo coming on and telling us a bit more about Barnsley. We will keep up to date with these markets. We'll be tweeting them on at the Sack Race. So follow us for all your news. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel as well. And yeah, thanks a lot. Cheers, Carlo.
No problem. Cheers.